Well, we may not be able to herd cats, but we can certainly track them. A Guelph University student has devised a unique way to keep tabs on feral cats, not only to see where they go, but also how they behave. The program has received a lot of attention as Canada tries to develop strategies to cope with a booming cat population. Tyler Flockhart is the man leading the research. He joins us now, and I was quite astounded, really. 100,000 stray cats just in Toronto.
Yeah.
And why is this an issue?
Well, this is an issue on three fronts. First is we're talking about animal welfare, so the welfare of the cats. The second is that these cats can have impacts on the environment, particularly on bird and mammal populations. And the third is that they pose unknown risks to public health because they transmit disease such as toxoplasmosis and rabies.
And so you have found a unique way to track where these cats are going using this collar. Tell me how it works.
That's right. So this is a radio collar that we would put around the cat's neck after we capture it.
And the battery, there's a battery in here?
The battery's in the bottom, yeah,
okay.
And then the signal is transmitted out of the top. And what needs to happen is once it's on the cat, we need to go out and we need to use an antenna to triangulate where the cat is.
Okay.
But it gives off a signal continuously. But what we can do is that once this is on the cat, we can track where the cat is going and how it's behaving.
And what are the implications of this? How would this help?
Well, there's really one big question, and that is a common intervention is to sterilize outdoor cats. But we don't know how that sterilization influences their behavior. So if they are moving less, if they're not crossing as many roads, their survival might actually increase. So while you might be stopping the reproduction of those individuals, you may be improving the survival of those individuals. And that sort of transition results in differences in how you might manage that population.
When we talk about the problem Canada-wide, I mean, we touched on the problem in Toronto, and I know numbers are tough to come by, but is this issue sort of specific to certain cities or big cities or not necessarily?
I think that this problem is across Canada. Almost every community, I think, is dealing with unowned cats on the street. And it's going to be more pervasive in larger cities, of course, but I think it's an issue across Canada.
What got you interested in this in the first place?
Well, I'm a wildlife biologist, so I was always interested in the impacts that cats had, particularly on birds. But once I had the opportunity to get into this research, I started to realize that there is no simple solution. It's not black and white. And you need to really consider both animal welfare as well as potential impacts on the environment concurrently if you want to find solutions that are mutually agreeable to people that have a range of opinions across how to deal with cats.
Is anybody else doing this research anywhere else in the world, or is it pretty specific to Canada and your work in particular?
I think a lot of people are studying cats, particularly unowned cats, but I don't think a lot of people are thinking about the big picture, about how cats can move between being owned to being unowned and how they do that moving through the shelter system. Because this is a connection, it's a network.
Has that increased that trend? And I know I keep bringing up numbers which are tough to come by, of course, but have you noticed that there is an increase in the number of stray cats that are in the public?
The number of stray cats that are going into animal shelters seems to be increasing slightly over time. The euthanasia rates are decreasing slightly over time, but we're talking about huge numbers. We're talking about potentially 200,000 cats a year going into animal shelters, and about 33% of those are being euthanized each year. So we're talking about a large number of cats.
What should people do if they see a stray cat out there? What's the safest way of dealing with this?
Well, that's a really good question. We're not entirely sure, because if you bring a cat to a shelter system, you're relying on that shelter system to find the owner, which is a very difficult thing. And that cat could be somebody's cat that they've let outside. So I would say leave it there. If the cat looks sick, then I would suggest taking it into an animal shelter.
Tyler, great advice and an important issue. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, my pleasure.